We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright when the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What's that you said coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the Three Amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend, and it is the Three Amigos tonight because Steve Hasty is working. So I'm joined by the Mitchells. Good evening, George. Good evening, Neil.
Hi, Steve.
Evening, Steve.
Good to see you guys, and as always, 2 hours of the usual stuff on a Friday night to build up to the game against Everton tomorrow. And a quick mention to the watch along that we're going to be doing tomorrow, but not on YouTube. I did mention this last night. I have pinned it in the chat tonight. www.bigup.com #NUFC Matters. It's there. It's pinned at the top. Please go and join that page. This is a new website which has been set up in America. They've asked us to trial a new system that they've got. I think they're hoping to change streaming for good and to make it a lot more accessible for YouTubers and podcasters, but also to bring stuff to the screen which you've never seen before on a podcast. And that would be tactics boards and, you know, all the kind of stuff you would see on a Sky TV broadcast will be available to us. They've asked us to trial it for Newcastle United supporters. So that is what we're going to do tomorrow. I'm not going to the game tomorrow, so it's a good opportunity to do it. So bigup.com /NUFC Matters. I'll be there tomorrow night. George will be joining us. Joe Allen's going to join us tomorrow night as well. A few of the lads from the Fans Forum. So there'll be quite a few of us on there. There's also a new kind of message board that they're using, and I've had a go of it myself this week when we've been messing around with it, and it's great. You can put GIFs in it. You can set up a separate thread. So you can have a conversation off away from the main chat with other people. So it's a hell of a lot different to YouTube. It is very exciting, and I'm proud that they've come to us and asked us if we'll do it, because they've been watching different podcasts. They liked what they saw with NUFC Matters, so that's nice of them to ask us to do it. And again, it's free to join. You don't have to have a subscription fee. So you just need to click that link, go to it, and you'll see there's a watch along set up. The people who are going to be on it, I'll send you a separate link like I normally do. For fans forum, etc., and you'll be able to join it tomorrow. So something a bit exciting and something to get our teeth into tomorrow. Something to get our teeth into tonight, though, is come from one of the fans forum, and it's Ian Sutcliffe. And I had intended on talking about potentially getting a new stadium, etc. But I love what Ian's done here, and he apologises for writing an essay, but he shouldn't, because it's a bloody good one. He says, I've had a thought about this new stadium capacity, and I thought it might be a good question for the lads tonight, mate. Do you think that rather than the powers that be estimating and guessing how many seats they see as the optimum for a potential new stadium we may build, that they should canvass existing members who are already paying to be disappointed week in, week out in the ballots, and ask if they would be willing to pay a deposit on a season ticket if a new build stadium is viable and deemed the way forward? I see week in, week out, 35,000 plus members in the queue for open sale tickets after failing in the ballot. So I imagine that 20,000 deposits would be easily attained if the club could get an agreement to build a 75,000 to 80,000 capacity new stadium on Leazes Park, for example. With 20,000 extra season tickets paid for partly in advance, that would mean that we would have around 53,000 season ticket holders, I think. If the capacity of the new stadium was large enough, we could easily fit in the inevitable prawn sandwich eaters in the multiple corporate areas to increase the individual match day spend, and also leave a decent allowance of tickets for local members who can't afford or can't attend every home game and still get in our increasing international visitors. I may be wrong, but I think we could easily be looking at a 75,000 to 80,000 stadium filled weekly if they can get the go-ahead on the Leazes idea. I know this isn't quite as simple as I'm making it out to be, but surely it's better to ask the real fans to commit to something if it's viable and not spend billions on a stadium that still won't satisfy the needs of our ever-growing fan base going forward. On the other hand, if members are not willing to commit to paying deposits, this will show that potentially a lower capacity or St James's Park stadium expansion is more realistic, and make the decision from there. Just a really simple idea, mate, that I know isn't perfect, as not everyone has cash to pay deposits, etc. But I thought it could be worth getting the lads' thoughts. He did then go on to say that he's got his lube at the ready for the inevitable stick that he's going to get in the listen, great stuff. Ian, thank you for taking the time to write that. I think that's a fantastic way to start the show. George, what do you make of that? We've seen talk about stadium and press conference, full of it today.
Well, yes, and what irked me not long after the press conference, some of the press people are trying to say that Eddie's answer indicated that if we shifted from St James's Park, he might actually leave. He never said anything of the bloody sort. He just said he could be persuaded. That's all the lad said. I mean, weird. I found that up. Well, I shouldn't, because the press can be weird with us anyway. Ian doesn't need to apologise to anybody for that. That's a fan who really loves his football. I'm tempted to ask how much Emily's put into that as well, mind. Who sat down and thought about it and put forward something which is worth talking about, which is worth an issue. And the reality of life is, if we are going to try and satisfy the fan base that we've got, then 80,000 isn't unrealistic. If you want some seats spare to encourage the likes of schools and others to take part in being supporters of Newcastle United, it would be brilliant to have a little bit spare where the club could say, well, to a local school, for example, where there's 50 tickets for a £5 each or something like that. That's really, really would be great addition to what Ian's suggesting. As to where it would be, Well, I've said this before on here and other platforms. When we tried to develop the stadium before to where we are now, everything around us was opposition. Leazes Park was opposition, university was opposition, council was opposition. That ain't there now, not like it was then. Because all of those bodies I've talked about would be just delighted to get their hands on some cash. And the one thing that PIF has is money. So I'm not knocking Ian's suggestion at all. In fact, I think it's a great one. And well, like you said, Steve, well done him for sitting down and talking about it. But it opens the door to other avenues as well. As I said, looking at how we can bring the community into the stadium as well. And that's the other thing that they would need to think, in my view, if they built a new stadium. Look at all those cavernous spaces down underneath the grandstands at St James's Park at the moment, which from Monday to Friday are largely useless, unused. With a little bit of imagination, it could be turned into all sorts of things. For example, if off the top of my head, one of those long open spaces under the Gallagher, as I walk through them on my way home, with a little bit of clever shuttering inside there, you could have 2 or 3 squash courts underneath that stand and start a squash club, that sort of thing. Really make it community. So, Ian's just opened all that up to my mind, just sitting here. So well done, Ian. And I would love to see it go the way of staying as close as we can to where we are, if that was possible. But I think as long as it's a city centre stadium, I would be happy. And the Leazes Park issues is the one that's live, but it's more live now than it has been before, because anybody that works or lives in that part of the city will see Leazes Park's in a terrible state at the moment, and it could be a big thing for them to get some cash to redo the bit that they've got and do it well. It's worth remembering the history of that. Leazes Park was given to us by Lord Armstrong as part of his gift to the city, along with the RVI and Jesmond Dean and all of that. Well, it could go back to being a community facility if Newcastle United were involved, if PIF were involved, because they want to do things in the community. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. Well done, Ian, for sitting down and thinking about it. You get no pelters off me, bunny lad. That's good. I fully support what you're suggesting. And one last thing, my heart sunk when I heard on the television this week that the leak that the powers that be at St James's Park sat down and discussed a new stadium with the fans advisory board. I thought, oh, good God, where the hell is that going to take? I'd rather listen to Ian's ideas, I'm afraid. Sorry to be harsh about that, but that's just how I feel about it at the moment. But well done, Ian. Thank you.
Yeah, great stuff. Mitch, what's your thoughts on all of that? Then, I mean, it's been an interesting week, as it always is. When there's no football on, there's always something to talk about with Newcastle. But yeah, the stadium is, a lot of people, reading into things, and as usual, having an epithet, I guess, is one way of describing it, about things that haven't even been said. People making things up, people clutching at straws. It's not great when these things happen. But honestly, Ian's point, I think, is well put across, and it's an idea. That's all it is.
Very much so, and at least the one that he explains his thinking behind it and what his thought process is. I wouldn't agree entirely with some of it, but at the same time, that's what it's about. It's about opinions and healthy debate and respectful debate. I think there's a lot of assumption being made in the last week by a lot of people, and there's a lot of speculation without actually too much information. One thing I would suggest is you have to look at what's happened in Italy recently. A lot of the clubs who built new grounds, who used to have mega stadiums at 80,000 plus, are actually going smaller. And the reason being is they actually only really sold those games out maybe 4 or 5 times a season. And in Italian Cup games, some of those grounds looked empty. even though they still had 20 or 30,000 in. When you got an 80,000 seat ground with 20,000 in, it looks empty. And I think it's finding the balance between demand and keeping a healthy demand versus not having too many games where there's too many empty spaces in the ground. I think 100,000, even if we won the Champions League, I think maybe sell 100,000 out 3 times a season. Really? I think we've got to get real about this. 75,000 for me seems still a little excessive if you were to push us. Yes, there's a lot of members who feel disappointed when they miss out on tickets, but absolutely going to them and saying, would you put your money where your mouth is and put a deposit down on a season ticket? Let's see what really happens then. It's always different when it becomes real. I think there's a lot of things, also a ground expansion or a ground move with a bigger capacity would inevitably involve more corporate areas and more corporate income, because that's where the dollar is in the top flight at the moment. And whether we like that or not, that's the reality that we're facing. We also need, in my opinion, and I've been of this opinion for a long time, since Steve Hasty and I discussed this with a gentleman called Jay French, who my dad knows and was introduced to, who was part of the Gagliardi family bid for the club under Ashley. And when we looked at everything with him, with the job he does with Matthews Southwest, they talk about creating stadia which are 24/7, 365 arenas. That there's malls and there's F&B and there's reasons to be there, not just on match day. And frankly, if we had a top-class restaurant and a top-class bar that overlooked the pitch, I would sit in the bar and watch the grass grow and have a pint, because I'm not stupid. And there's a lot more people like me, and we'd all do it. If you stuck a Michelin-starred restaurant that overlooked the pitch, I would go there as well. It'd be the first place I would go. And so there's lots of reasons to look at this kind of idea and look at it sensibly. Is the FAB the best starting point for a discussion with it? Well, it's the only starting point for a discussion with it. What I feel about it is irrelevant. Though I don't see how somebody who's been a supporter since the takeover and has never lived in the UK can really speak for me as an expat fan and how I feel about St James's Park and differences and changes in there. But that's another matter entirely. My biggest concern with anything that the club want to do is not PIF. And I see people wetting their knickers about PIF losing interest and all that. That's so far from the truth you wouldn't believe. My biggest concern is the council. Are they smart enough? Are they clever enough to see the bigger picture? Are people involved in the decisions big enough to put their parochial interests aside and act in the best interest of the entire city and not worry about what's going to happen with their personal seat on the council? In my experience of what I've heard from people reasonably high up, my dad will vouch for this, what my first wife did and does with local councils. And this is 20 years ago when she used to bring stuff home from local councils about what was going on in terms of finance and how the finances were working. Used to blow my mind. And I'm quite sure it's no different right now. And so, and that concerns me a lot, because there's a number of hypothetical situations that I could see that could create a lot of issues and upset a lot of people. And it wouldn't be the club ultimately that was at fault. It wouldn't be PIF who was at fault. It would be the local council. They've got to be smart enough and big enough and realise what the bigger picture is and work with everybody and look to work together to build something that's quite right for the future and potential expansion. I think if we were to look at 65 to 70 with potential for further expansion, if we were 70, selling out 70 every week, yes, we need to be looking at saying, right, how do we expand this? I genuinely think at 70, we'd maybe sell that out. Even if we were Champions League every year, we'd sell 70 out, maybe 2/3 of the season. Genuinely. And there's loads of reasons for that. And I don't want to put a dampener on it. I just want to try and be a bit realistic about where I see things are. I think the council should be doing everything to keep Newcastle United within the bounds of the city. And whether that's allowing them to build somewhere close to St James's for a new build, or be very amenable about expansion plans if it's the decision is to stay at St James's Park. My personal feeling is, no matter what the feasibility study says and what's ran past the FAB, they've already made their mind up what they want to do, and they did ages ago. And we're way past consultation stage, personally. I think we're way past that.
Yeah.
But anything that they want to do physically will still be years away. And I think as fans, we have to accept that we may have to concede certain things. If we want to challenge the best and be number one, as the chairman says, there are certain things we may have to concede, because the only way to build that way, and for PIF to get their financial return, as that says quite rightly, we might have to concede certain things. What I don't want to see is people winning what I would call a Pyrrhic victory, and that everybody loses out in the long term. We need to have something that will allow us to go toe-to-toe with the very best in the world. If that's what we really want to be, and I'm utterly convinced that PIF mean that when they want us at the top, at the very top, to be number one. They don't mean number one in England, they mean number one in Europe. And so the money's there, the will's there. I just worry that the council not necessarily are there yet. And it may take a big stick to shake that tree very hard to make that happen. And it's very difficult for me not to have a jaded eye towards it, just simply because I know how a lot of this works in local councils. I think Mark's right. You know, our Man City fans harping about Main Road. I don't think any Man City fan, I don't think, looks backwards these days. They've got a manager who looks forward. They've got an owner who looks forward. They've got an ownership group that look forward. We've always got to look forward, and we've got to really do trust the process, as it were. But we also have to trust that they're acting with Newcastle United's best interest in heart. And if we want to generate the income that allows PSR to be easy, if we want to be able to get the players in that we want to challenge at the very top flight, we need the very best facilities, and we need them done in the very best way. And I just hope that everybody involved in the process is on the same page when that time comes. And I do have concerns that there will be certain roadblocks put up by people who mean well but can't see the bigger picture.
Yeah, interesting point from both of you. I mean, you know, from my perspective, I agree with Mitch on the numbers game. You know, I would need to be convinced that Newcastle could bring 80,000 supporters in every week. I mean, it's a lovely idea and a lovely thought of, you know, the stadium, you know, being even louder and prouder than it is at the minute. Whether that's a new stadium or whether it's a stadium with added seats, but short term and long term are two completely different projects, two completely different plans, and cost two completely separate amounts of money. And I think it'll come down to money at the end of the day. It'll come down to finances, and it'll come down to the fact that it's going to cost a lot of money to extend St James's Park for very little gain. And I think that's where we're at. I think we will end up with a new stadium. I think there will have to be consultation and maybe a bit of, how can I put it, compromise between the club and the council, because these things don't happen easily. You know, anything to do with land, property, rent, buildings, doesn't matter what it is, you know, whether it's a block of flats, whether it's a school sixth form, whether it's a stadium, these things just don't happen overnight. And unfortunately, the land that we want to build it on, which I would imagine is Leazes Park, is still thought of by some people as sacrilege that Newcastle would even consider building on there. So we've got to deal with the NIMBYs, the not in my backyards, etc. There will be some. But for me, getting back to the number side of things, I personally feel that 65,000, would be about right for us, for Newcastle United. I don't think 70,000 is something we'd fill week after week after week. I don't think we'd fill it 2/3 of the season, 70,000. I really don't. And ultimately, what it's all down to is success on the football pitch. And you have to be successful on the football pitch to bring the crowds in and to bring people in. The corporates that we're talking about are people who ultimately come to entertain clients. Many of these corporates are Newcastle fans, but some of them aren't. Some of them aren't even football fans. They just bring people to do business. It's a day out. The football is a secondary thing, but their money's as good as anybody else's. So we have to bear that in mind. But, only one team can win the Premier League. So at the moment, we are miles behind Manchester City. I would say we are miles behind Liverpool and Arsenal. We are still a long way off competing with them season in, season out, and winning the Premier League. So I don't think there's a huge rush for a new stadium. I wouldn't be surprised if we just extend St James's Park. But, how long is it going to take? How long is a piece of string? And I'm afraid this is a conversation that we are going to have for quite a long time. And I'd like to know what the relationship is like between Newcastle United and Newcastle City Council. I think one thing that we have to think of is the football club, I would imagine, have got in one way that they've got a good hand, but on the other side, the council have got a good hand. And this is what I mean about compromise. There's going to need to be compromise over what both parties want and how they can achieve it. And that's the fascinating thing for me in all of this, Neil.
Yeah, you're right. Look, I'll give you a hypothetical situation. PIF say, right, we're going to build this new ground here. We're going to help you redevelop the area that St James's Park is on once we've moved to the new ground. And we'll pay up our lease on that ground. So the land is yours, and we'll help you redevelop that land and do what you want with it. We've also got a check for you for other infrastructure projects. And the council will go, okay, that's great, let's have the money. But we'll decide what we want to do with it. I can tell you right now, PIF's answer would be no, you won't. Because that's not how it works out here.
Yeah.
And they've got to be brave enough to trust PIF to say, right, this is how we envisage this infrastructure money to be spent, and this is how we want to help your city. This is how we want to help the wider region. And if the council are difficult about it, PIF could say, okay, we'll just not write that check, that's fine. Tell you what as well, there's the lease on St James's Park. You can decide what you do with St James's Park now. The buildings are now yours. We've paid up the lease on the land. What are you going to do with that? The council couldn't afford to demolish St James's Park. It would bankrupt Newcastle City Council.
Yeah.
That's the ridiculous situation that potentially we've got. And I'll tell you how even worse that could get, because they've already invested in other parts of the northeast. If PIF pick that money up and say, all right, we'll put some more money into Middlesbrough, or we've got an interesting project on Weir side, how would Newcastle United fans feel seeing that money disappear to other parts of the northeast? So the region's helped, but the city, the heartbeat, where Newcastle United should be and belongs, loses out all over parochial, small issues and people who can't see the bigger picture. And, what happens then to potential airport development? I know there's a delicate balance with airport development, because I know from people out here. Emirates were talking to Newcastle Airport about extending the runway so they could land their bigger planes there. And that would be fantastic for Newcastle. However, surely if we then have a partnership with a Saudi airline, that Saudi airline might say, do you know what, we need a European hub. That would be fantastic to have Newcastle for that.
Yeah.
So then we need to have an airport who's brave enough to speak to both Emirates and any potential Saudi airline and say, can we get you to work together on this, please? It'll help both of you. And not piss off Emirates and not piss off the Saudis and look at the bigger picture. And that might actually mean sacrificing a few other things. But people seem to be so worried about their own tiny little part of the jigsaw and losing their tiny little fiefdom that they might actually blow the whole thing and change how it's going to work and change the dynamic for the worse of the city. In Newcastle, at the minute, why did Newcastle versus the rest of the North East want to vote Remain when it came to Brexit? Because we understand that a lot of the money that helped us redevelop the quayside and do a lot of the amazing projects we did came from Brussels. It didn't come from London. It never would come from London. And that's gone. And we need to find another way to have an injection of cash into our region that's very much needed. The perception that still is being pushed by the Premier League and by other clubs in the Premier League and by people in football is that money from the Middle East is bad and money from America is good. That's pretty much it. And it's rubbish. It's absolutely rubbish. We should be welcoming it. We should welcome it with open arms, and we should be opening up to say, right, how can we work with you and not be a drug shooting the process, holding everything back? And that's genuinely my concern, is that politically too many people are so misaligned with it that they will never, ever, ever get on board with Saudi money. Yes, I'm biased. I've lived in the Middle East for over 10 years. Yes, my outlook is very different. My outlook is very different now to what it was when I first come to this region. Very different. And I wish I'd known some of the things I know now 20 years ago. But it needs bravery. It needs balls. It needs some honest, straight talking. And we need to be fighting tooth and nail to work with. There's an Arabic saying about, in times of trouble, bend like the reeds in the wind. And I guess that's what we all need to be able to do. And we pick our battles. And don't dig your heels in and win what ultimately could be a Pyrrhic victory. Because while you're sitting on your throne thinking you've won, people are cutting your legs away from underneath you. And I think we have opportunities here, and we still have legion opportunities to bring investment into our city and region and wider region. And I'm talking from north of the Humber up to the Scottish borders and beyond, all in the name of Newcastle United, ultimately. And that's where we have to be clever and not small-minded and try and see that bigger picture.
Yeah, and it shines the light on what the idiot at Manchester's trying to do, Ratcliffe. His small-minded attitude is build a Wembley of the North in Manchester and alienate everybody outside of Manchester, all over. We have the potential to be able to do a great deal for our region with PIF. And I agree with Neil. Well, it'd be no surprise to hear me say I agree with Neil. But having worked with Saudis and Egyptians and people like that from the Arab world, the one thing I've always found from them, straight as a die, I've also worked with people from the United States, some of whom I'd have to count the fingers on my hands to make sure I still had 5 after I'd shook hands with them. So, you know, I'd rather have the straightforward, upfront, yes, we can do it from the Saudis than the smoke-filled rooms where some of the American money comes from, which they seem to want. The other thing, worrying thing is, of course, from a Premier League point of view, we now have 11 clubs owned by Americans and possibly another one joining. that would give the Americans a huge advantage at anything to do with the Premier League. So whatever we can get in terms of for Newcastle and for the club, we should go for. And as Neil says, really go for it. With regards to the political issues around, well, the political issues around are very little different to what they were in '66 when we lost the World Cup then, I'm afraid, because that was all lost on personal interest. And I'm sure some of that will surface again. I repeat, though, there's the one big difference. They're skint, allegedly. And they might be prepared to talk about things which even 5 years ago wouldn't have been palatable, but they are now. And as somebody's been saying about the Lasers Park, well, sadly, this week, Lasers Park was downgraded from green space areas because of its state. So there's something to be done there, as I say. This Question of Ian's has really set some good things going. Go back to numbers. I still say there's merit in if we have a bigger stadium, and rather than have big empty blocks, why not give the opportunity for school kids? £5 a ticket to fill spaces would seem to me better than having empty seats, and I really think that could do an awful lot for the future, for the supporters of the future, and for the Newcastle United of the future as well. Because I hate to say it, but as my time in local schools as a governor, slowly but surely, the input of football as both as a sport and as a spectator sport has actually gone down, despite the fact that we've produced so many world-class footballers in this area. I mean, I know schools that regularly won things like the Blake Cup, the County Cup, who can hardly field 11 players now. Well, that all could be helped by the fact of getting Newcastle United more directly involved, and that would be one way of doing it. Having a section of the stadium that if the tickets weren't going, you could flog the kids a ticket for a £5 and fill it with kids. So there's lots of things that we could think about, but Ian's really set the ball rolling, and I'm grateful because he's made me think now as well.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Burnett said he thinks I'd lost the plot. I think you misunderstood what I was saying, Bill. I'm not saying don't have a new stadium. Far from it. I think Newcastle United should have a new stadium. I'd like to see a new stadium built on Castle Leazes, on Leazes Park, sorry. And, failing that, maybe look at Exhibition Park. Somebody mentioned that earlier. I think Exhibition Park would be perfect for it as well. Bigger space, again, just the opportunities would be endless there. You could even have a training ground built next to it on Exhibition Park, but you'd have to speak to the freeman of the city and again, now negotiate with the council to get something built up there. But the short-term answer would be to extend St James's Park, whilst you're all still looking at building a new stadium. And what I'm saying is that we are a long way behind those teams who we are hoping eventually to emulate. And short term, yes, we would have to spend money on extending the stadium, but it would give us that opportunity to allow more people in. It's look, there's no right answer and there's no wrong answer, and the only thing we can do is give opinions. And somebody mentioned, another YouTuber has done a good video on this. I don't watch the other YouTubers. I've told you many times I haven't got time. I do 7 of these a week. I've got other things that I do rather than sit in front of the computer, but I do hear the feedback, etc. And all I'll say, and I'll repeat this, we on here will give you our opinion. We hear lots of stories and we get lots of information from lots of different areas and lots of different people, some connected with the football club, some people who are journalists, some people who are not connected with the football club. But me, Mitch, Neil, Stu, George in particular, all have great connections. And we talk quite a lot off screen about different things. And we're very, very, very careful on what we share on this platform, because ultimately we don't want to spoil things. We don't want to interfere in things which, if we said something, it would build supporters' hopes up. And we're very careful not to provide misinformation. Sometimes what we will do is plant a seed or put something out there. This isn't how can I put it? This isn't a leak show. I'm trying to think of an analogy which isn't rude. This isn't a leak show where we're trying to grow the biggest prize leak and be the ones to say we told you so. This is a show which is built on facts and is built from the takeover. You know, the takeover was something that we knew what was going on behind the scenes on both sides of the fence. We knew what was going on Ashley's side of the fence because of Keith and his relationship with Mike Ashley and his crowd. And we knew what was going on the Newcastle United side of the fence because of our personal relationship with Amanda and me and Dad. And we're very, very careful moving forward with that. And we've continued with that mantra all the way through. And that is why people watch us. It's why the club watches. The club watch us and watch other podcasts. And I would imagine at times there's probably palpitations and heart attacks going on at St James's Park when we say things. And I can imagine that they probably get a bit aerated as to what we're going to say and how we're going to say it. And, you know, we've had situations where we've been reported to the club in the past for saying things. And unfortunately, those things have, well, fortunately for us, they've been proved to be untrue. But unfortunately, the club, you know, they've been left with a little bit of egg on their face. And from my perspective, that is why we are always careful on here not to mislead people. And I would say there are a lot of people out there on YouTube who need to maybe follow our example. Don't spread misinformation. Don't build people's hopes up. Don't put something in your title of your videos which is going to give people the reason to click. That's just wrong. You know, stop leading people up the garden path and just, you know, give people an opportunity to have an opinion. Share your opinion by all means, but don't mislead the supporters. And you know, that's it. Rant over. It's needed to be said for a while, but I just genuinely think that we've always had something special here, and we'll continue to do the same. We'll continue to do the same as we've always done. And I'm sure you would probably add something to that, Mitch.
Yeah, you've said pretty much kind of what I've wanted to say for a couple of weeks, and said it perhaps a little bit more obtusely. It gets my goat when I say people. I don't think they're doing it deliberately, but they're definitely doing it to generate a bit of clout, and it's really quite difficult to watch that happen when you know what the ultimate outcome is going to be and the ultimate words are going to be, and they're going to be something quite different. It frustrates me. It frustrates me that people are quite happy to wind the fan base up when it's so easy to wind the fan base up and to get people firing bullets at each other. There's no need for it. Absolutely no need for it. When you try and call for unity and then you're watching people throw hand grenades into the mix, it's really very difficult. And yet we want to encourage opinion and healthy debate. Difference of opinion's normal, very normal.
Yeah.
And it, you know, as I found is when Steve and I were building the fledgling trust up, when you went out and reached out to people at sort of social clubs and meetings in the evening, the biggest thing out of our fan base is that when our fans have opinions, they want their opinions to be heard and respected. And even if you sit down and sit people down face to face and have a discussion with them, even if you still end up disagreeing with them at the end of the day, they respect you for that. And then you can move on together and say, okay, they say this, we say that, we're not going to agree on it. Ultimately, everybody wants the betterment of Newcastle United in mind. And that's why it's so passionate and it gets tempers up on occasion. Again, that's quite normal, but we've got to find a way ultimately to be able to sometimes agree to disagree and move on. And then I think we need a lot more direction from the club. I sometimes wish the club would just come out and say, we've decided this.
Yeah.
No fab consultation,
Yeah.
No lip service. Just, this is what we think's the best thing to do, and this is what we're going to do with it. Look, for example, when they try and do something that looks like they're trying to listen to the fan base. The recent thing that says you can pass an away ticket on now. There's a way to pass an away ticket on, but you can only do it twice a season.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great for emergencies, which happen. And I think there are a lot of people who've been left in that situation in the last couple of years and frustrated that there was no way to do that. So that's great. But it's kind of a almost solution. And I think at least though, they've come out and said that's what we've decided and there it is. And whether you agree with it or disagree with it, it's a decision. And I think we need more of that. And as a fan base, we need to be understanding that sometimes the club have got to act in their best interest and what they think's the right thing to do, and damn the torpedoes. And some of those torpedoes might be being fired by me because, you know, I'm a big enough bloody gobshite to do it. But they shouldn't be frightened of that. They should be open to that. Anything we do or say on here is because we come in it from the attitude that we could and should be the club's most critical friend. Because we love our club and we love Newcastle United and just want it to be better. And whether they get things right or whether they get things wrong, hopefully in time they get more things right than they get wrong, and everybody ultimately moves on and they're happy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's little things that the club have done which ultimately I knew were going on. I had it confirmed to me by another YouTuber who will remain nameless, who confirmed to me that certain YouTubers have had, you know, tickets, for example, or access to various events since the club was taken over, and that in itself tells you, for me, that yeah, the club maybe see the benefits of giving certain YouTubers privileges. I understand that. However, that in itself causes a bit of a divide and conquer amongst the fan base. And that also means, I personally feel anyway, that if we were to get something free off the club, not that we're asking for anything, we don't want anything, we're happy to be the critical friend and stand on the outside looking in. But what I'm saying is, you're going to be less critical of the club as a YouTuber if you're getting certain access or certain privileges. And that in itself, I think, is, you know, again, it's a bit of a divide and conquer. It's clever because that's what Ashley was very good at. Ashley was very good at divide and conquer. You know, he would say, you know, you would play to one audience and, you know, hope that the others would turn on each other. And it becomes toxic in lots of ways, you know. And I think that's something that the club needs to remember, the owners need to remember with regards to our fan base. Our fan base, I still say, is completely different to any others. It's mad. It's as mad as a box of frogs. And we've seen it time and time again.
Look, we saw what Ashley was capable of doing with that, with what happened with Steve Hasty and certain individuals within the fan base.
Correct.
Who I will never forgive.
Correct.
And I'm somebody who normally can let things go. There's things I won't forgive for what certain people did and said about Steve Hasty. Yeah. When all he wanted to do was keep a dialogue going. He and I kept the very, very last threads of some sort of semblance of dialogue going with Derek and with Ashley. And what was turned against Steve by certain individuals was reprehensible. And really, genuinely, to this day, as you can probably tell, boils my piss.
Yeah.
And there's no point in naming names. They know who they are. And that was clever by Ashley, by being able to do that. And it always does work. Divide and conquer does work, particularly when we have a fan base who will kick off over the price of chips at the drop of a hat. And ever has it been. And then you've got this group from here, and they won't travel with that group from there because of something that happened in 1974. And it's like, oh my God. And we saw all of this when we went out to the pubs and clubs building the trust up. That it was like, really, you're still holding that grudge against that lot because of that? And that's what it's like, you know. And it works very well.
Well, you'll remember, Neil, the afternoon when all 10 of us who used to go together, we went in for our lunch in Bayet in 92 before the match kicked off. And the lads loved their lunch, they loved their fish and chips, but they couldn't get mushy peas because Ashley wouldn't buy the plastic container, and that was it. 8 of them don't come back. It's just me and Neil now, all over the plastic. But it was the way it was done. You know, it was the way it was done.
That was what started the rot. Was bloody mushy.
Mushy peas. It's a classic. I've just had a little giggle at this because Spenny, God bless him, he does text. Unfortunately for me, I'm in a WhatsApp group with Spenny. He's got me number, and then on top of that, I'm in the Facebook group with him. So when Spenny sends a message out, I get it 3 times, and then I get it off other people who've had the same message from Spenny. But he says, I've learned I've learned it the hard way of giving info out. I keep my circle small now. But Mark Byers has replied, but your info's always wrong, Spenny. So I have had to laugh at that.
Spenny, I like the news of the world, man.
Dear me.
Steve, I picked up something on the strap before. Somebody from Cramlington says that he remembers when Cramlington School won the Blake Cup. Well, I hate to tell him, in 1957, I captained the Stevenson School in Wallsend that won the Blake Cup twice. It played in shirts that were provided by Frank Brennan because Stan Seymour wouldn't give a discount on ours.
What a classic.
So things haven't changed.
Thanks to everybody's kind words about NUFC Matters in the chat. And like I said, we are what we say we are. We're a critical friend. And we do listen to you guys as well. Sometimes, I'm seeing Ian in the chat there saying, please no politics. And we're trying not to go down the political route either. I know why. You're saying that, Ian, because it can escalate. So it's one of those things. But we don't try to agitate. And that's the thing that I want to get across. We don't put stuff out on this channel to agitate people. We just try to be, honest with our opinions. And I think why this show, out of all other shows, and the professionals now, because it's probably well established as a favorite of everybody on this channel, is it's just like mates chatting in a pub. And sometimes there's 3 of us, sometimes there's 4 of us, sometimes there's 5 of us. But I think that's why people enjoy this. And it is a show for the older supporter. There are other channels that do podcasts for the younger crowd, shall we say. And I have seen some of these other podcasts, but I don't watch them on a regular basis, and some of the podcasters have been on this channel at some point as well. We've given them the opportunity. I've worked with some of them. I see some of them. I speak to some of them. When I'm at St James's or when I'm at an away ground, I bump into them, and got no animosity with any of them. I get on okay with them, and we helped kickstart one of the channels that still runs to this day with a few of the lads as well. So there's ways and means of going about it, but yeah, it's come a long way since Instagram, says Ian, which you're right, which is where me and Mitch started it. And thank you, Donald. I know the fanzines are all dropping. I posted the last ones today, so if you're still waiting, I have posted them today, so you will get yours over the next couple of days. But I'm pleased to say that it reached America, and it reached Mark Byers, and it also managed to get to Tom Richardson as well. So that's great stuff. Lovely to see people reading it and getting it. And I will have a final figure. I haven't had time to sit down and work it out. I've been busy doing other stuff this week, but we've certainly gone over the $3,000 mark now. Reason that I couldn't give you a final figure is because postage costs, this, that, and the other, for the ones that I had to sell, were there. We'll probably have about 10 or 11 left. So if you have missed out, don't worry. I'll probably put a link up for you to maybe subscribe again. I just had to take it off the website because I didn't want to oversubscribe. Mark says the only questionable thing about NUFC Matters is Barry Hogan getting his back doors slammed every Monday, which is probably true, Mark. Yeah, he didn't have them slammed last Monday, mate. He wasn't here. He slept in. He got in from work and went to sleep in his chair and woke up at 7:15. T-Tank says, Friday and Sundays are my favourite. Keep up the great work, everyone. Donald says, we are all a community. No need for animosity. Well said. And Spenny says, apparently the Seagulls are bringing the fanzines out, so I was told. And listening to Steve singing is a small price to pay, but I can understand some fans who are not already challenged find it too high a price to pay. I'm tone deaf, so I'm good with it. Thank you, I think probably that's good time for maybe doing a bit of singing. Tweet of the week. Open up, it's the police. Prove it. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light. That was quite good, that wasn't it? That was good. That was proper singing. And this one, you've done nothing to help with this meal, Herman. I did the mash.
No.
Did the monster mash. Very good. Thank you for those. Always good to get a little bit of a sing-song in. Okay, let's get to some tweets. There's plenty of signs for all you sign fans out there, but we've got this one first. Here's some Iron Brew.
Oh, God.
Very clever. And just asked me Builder to send me a rough price, and he sent me this.
Oh, Jesus.
And objection. He's clearly leading the witness. Can you see it? Yeah, well done, George.
Yes.
You got there in the end. And Jimmy Moore sent us this one. Crispy Bacon on Facebook. You're connected on Facebook, and somebody inboxed him, just found a picture of you, mate. Very good. Bad news in this toy store. Chucky's gone.
He's gone.
And this photo, he's probably thinking about other women, says the woman. Him, who the hell is taking pictures of me and my wife in bed? And this one was brilliant from Steve Harvey. Please stop sending me this. Does look a bit like him. Could have put that in the lookalikes. I had this a few times from people. Samuel L. Jackson. Very good.
Wow.
And our neighbour died yesterday. Hooray. I don't think cheering is appropriate, Kevin. New Barbie come out. Long-term relationship Barbie. And coffee or tea? Coffee. Wrong, it's tea. I wonder if anyone's actually done that. That would be funny. Here's the signs.
Probably on the last day in the job.
Probably, yeah. Whenever I've been to a funeral, all I've ever got is a sandwich and a drink. The headline was Mourners Gather for Fanny. And I did like this sign. CZ, stop. And notice the rider, failure to be at the bus stop at the scheduled time will result in missing the bus. Can I say it fairer than that?
Yeah.
Water for your dog outside this pub, or short-sighted people with low standards. We don't judge. And some smart arse put this on at the cliff top. Danger, cliff face.
Oh.
Push to open. If that doesn't work, pull. If both do not work, try the actual entrance to your left. I laughed at that one a bit longer than I should have as well. Very clever. Great van here. Muff Wash. Not sure what they deliver, but you can find out at their website, muffwash.co.uk. They're not a new sponsor. And accidentally stood too close to the scanner. Monster pipe. And Wi-Fi's broken in this pub. Talk to your pals, he's put. Thank you to Denise for this one as well. Should pick this up on the TV. UEFA Champions League. Young boys near Aston Villa 3, and it was at the stadium wanked off. Seen that a few times. And Dr. BG, presumably good at helping people stay alive. Thank you, Ian. And this one, perhaps best to keep your sliding doors closed. Clothing shops becomes big cocks. And following on that theme, cock polishing services. Really not sure about that.
One have to polish helmets as well.
They must do. And national piss shortage due to our government taking it all outside this other pub. And Domino's Pizza put this out. Delivery for Ten Hag. He's still in a job, lad. He's still in a job. Still no P45. And who left this on my car in lot 20? I just want to talk. Many 3-year-olds have trouble staying within the lanes. Maybe if you practice colouring this turtle, it will help with your parking.
Christ.
Got to some effort there. Is butt cheeks one word, or should I spread them apart outside Truck Yard in America? Thanks, Jimmy.
Ouch. Ouch.
And this guy's probably the butt of all the jokes. Manhole assessor. And if you saw the battle droid first, you are a true Star Wars fan. Right at the back there on the left.
You say there's a battle droid?
And another Star Wars. This is brilliant. Nuclear bunker turned into R2D2 by a mystery street art. Fantastic. And if you're thinking about getting a pram for your Ben, there you go. That's the one.
Oh, X-Wing. Dear me.
Street and that. Fantastic. I would have loved that as a kid. Always warm your hands as well before milking a cow. And I look like a fox. I look like a wolf. I look like a bear. Shut up. And 9 years of music lessons on the left, 3 bottles of whiskey on the right. And I thought he was holding an ice cream in this photo. Very good. It's actually Shakespeare here. Rare worn down pencil belonging to William Shakespeare has been unearthed. Experts not sure if the pencil is to be or not to be.
Oh, God.
And Uncle Ben has been rushed to hospital with a lump in his testicle. Luckily, it was just a boil in a bag. And on the food theme, here's 50 Shades Von Hum. Very good. Another sign coming towards the end here. Comfort in, now pet friendly, except for bears. We're not making that mistake again. And when your wife has Aquaman fantasies, so you decide to fulfill her dream. Wonderful, that. Great stuff.
Absolutely.
Good effort.
We'll keep getting a few of these KFC ones as well. Though I walk through the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Don't know why there's suddenly a big surge on these KFC ones. Okay, top 4. Number 4, Alex Crown. Anybody interested in a ride in a helicopter? We need one person to accompany us. We leave Sunday morning from Newcastle. We then fly up to Edinburgh area for lunch, then over to the lakes and back to Newcastle and be back mid-afternoon. If interested, please message me, preferably somebody with a helicopter, otherwise we can't go. Number 3, 37 stone dad told to buy 2 plane tickets, ends up with 1 in row 17 and 1 in row 19. And number 2, the hotel air conditioner seen some things, some horrible, horrible things. And the winner this week, I did mention it on Three's a Crowd last week, but I didn't have it to hand. Here we are. This is a brilliant tweet. It really does amaze me how a lad who drinks 9 pints of Stella, 4 vodkas, 4 tequila slammers, and 4 Jaeger bombs, rounds it off with a curry, and rocks up on a football pitch at 10 a.m. in the pissing rain, can swing a corner in. Yet a player earning 90 grand a week who plays football can't. Very true, that. Great
Yes,
tweet.
absolutely.
Join the Facebook group, like the Facebook page, at Steve Wraith on X. Send us the tweets, and we will try our best to feature them next week. Okay, we're going to talk football, but we're going to have a quick ad break. We'll be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. All excursions included, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, a 2-crew driver and courier. It's a local family company, and you can find them at www.unitedgrouptravel.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up under the video. That's the like button. It does help us grow. And click the share button. Help share to your social media. If you want to join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month, then hit the join button under this video today. We also help the food bank on this channel. Visit nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. It takes you to the matchday bucket where you can donate some money virtually. Some events for your diary in aid of Dementia Matters. The Long Sands will be reforming and be supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band at the Cluny in Newcastle on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets are £15 pre-sale from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January 2025. Tickets available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. And an evening with the Entertainers takes place on the 24th of January 2025. Telephone the box office 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge at the Gateshead Leisure Centre is now open. 7 tokens for £99. Joe Allen will be hosting tokens with Lee Clark, John Anderson, Steve Howie, Darren Peacock, Supermac, Steve Watson, John Beresford, all between the dates of January and July. £99 for 7 tokens, newcastlelegends.com. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our NUFC Matters fanzine, £20 for 4 issues with all proceeds going to Dementia Matters. If you live overseas, it is £50 for 4 issues. To order now, go to newcastlelegends.com. Okay, I do want to plug this again. Thank you to everybody who's bought one so far. 40 of you have put in the money to help raise money for Dementia Matters. This is The Entertainers, 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's legacy, written by Will Scott, who wrote Pavel Cernacek's biography and Lee Clark's biography. Over 30 players interviewed in here and coaches, coaching staff as well. Please get yourself on there. Some people have bought a couple of copies, which is great. One for somebody else, I presume, and one for them. But if you go to newcastlelegends.com, it's $13.99 plus postage. It would do us a big favour, but it would do the centre a big favour. We are desperately trying to raise some more money for them as in different ways that we can. We will be announcing something else very special in due course, but this at the moment is the pet project. So by the end of October, it would be nice to have hit at least 200 sales of the book, which is what we sold of the fanzine, and that way we can help the Dementia Centre with a big donation. So please go to newcastlelegends.com if you haven't already to buy the book. And everyone will be seeing Big Up in the chat, and that is because Matchday Live takes place tomorrow on Big Up, not on YouTube, so you won't be able to watch it on YouTube. We're going to start at 5 o'clock. I will be announcing the team and going with the tactics board, and then I'll be bringing in the crew to do this tomorrow. But it is a brand new concept, something that nobody else is doing at this moment in time in the Newcastle fan base, and something a bit exciting. You'll be able to have a bit play around yourself in the chat, and we just want you to try it. There's 16 people subscribed to that so far, but I have pinned it in the chat there. So www.bigup.com/NUFC Matters. Go to that today, hit the subscribe button, and let's have some fun tomorrow. As I say, I'm not actually at the match tomorrow, so perfect opportunity to launch it and give it a go and see what happens. Derek Wright is also doing his book launch, don't forget, 15th of November, and again, he's donating all of his proceeds from that night to charity. This is the only time Derek's going to do a talk in, and that is going to be at the Tyneside Irish Centre, 15th of November. Tickets are £22, but that does include your signed copy of Derek's book. Joe Allen is doing the talk in with Derek that night. Should be a cracking night, so get yourself along. And if you're a boxing fan, Lennox Lewis UK tour is stopping off in Gateshead the 5th of November, and all you need to do is go to goldstarpromotions.co.uk and you can find out all the relevant ticket information that you need there. Tickets start at £39 for that. They are selling fast, but that's a great event for Gateshead Leisure Centre, so well done to them for managing to make that happen. Okay, let's talk a bit of football. And Mitch, me and George have already talked about Man City. I just wanted to give you a chance to give us your opinion on it, because we haven't really spoken a great deal about it, have we? The Man City result, and then obviously moving forward into the game of the weekend. They've got to find that kind of level again, Mitch, haven't they? They've got to find that kind of, that's the benchmark. And Eddie was asked about that in the press conference today. He was asked, lot of people talking about PSG. It's a year ago since we played PSG in that wonderful night. Is that the benchmark, or is the performance against Man City the benchmark? Yeah, Eddie's never going to be able to say that's where we want to be, but he was agreeing, I guess, with the press corps today on all of that.
We turned up.
Yeah,
we probably turned up against Man City. There's no way tactically we'll play the same way against Everton, even though we're away from home, or especially because we're away from home. Everton don't play the same way going forward as Man City do. I think tactically Eddie was very astute. He made some subtle changes that you have to sort of take a step back and look at the game and watch carefully to see what he did. And it really genuinely worked, but it only worked because the players all put a shift in. Everybody fought for that, and that's the level of performance we need, the level of input we need. We have that level of input week in, week out. We'll beat more teams than we'll draw or lose to. There's no doubt about that. That's what made the game against Wimbledon for me a little disappointing, in terms of some people who were given a chance didn't seem to show hunger to me against Wimbledon. There was a distinct lack of hunger from certain individuals. Maybe they thought they could just trot out and win a game against lower league opposition, and didn't put the same kind of level of shift in. That's disappointing, because that'll just backfire on them, because there's absolutely no doubt that everybody who faced Man City, either from the off or who was brought on as a substitute, put a level of performance in that we haven't seen from the entire squad all season. That's the level of performance we need. And like I just said, we put that level of performance in against any team, every team. We will win more games than we'll lose or draw. There's no doubt about that. Whatever tweaks Eddie wants to make, it's clear that Isaac's going to be out again. It's going to be Gordon leading the line. But equally, I was sent some stats by an Everton mate over here, because it looks like they're going to be missing Branthwaite, and Keane's going to play, about what happens when Keane comes into the Everton side, and it's not good for them. So there's something that, is obviously already on the Everton fans' mind. And so we're going into the game in good form, with psychologically a little bit of an advantage, perhaps. But what we need is the players to match that level of effort and match that level of input that wasn't shown by so many players against Everton, against Wimbledon through the week.
George, we need to keep those levels, don't we? That's the thing. It's the intensity and but the effort levels as well, George. I
said on the Monday night, you remember that Newcastle United turned up. That was the difference against Manchester City, because while we've got points, the real Newcastle United was never on the pitch, but certainly were against Manchester City. It was just outstanding. And I think City can count themselves lucky that they got a point, because I thought we were in it to win it. And I've never seen a City team troubled by pace so much. In that first 20 minutes, if Murphy had found a better ball into the box, or more people had got into the box, we would have crucified him in that first 20 minutes, because he was running the legs off the left back. And it was so ironic that was the bloke that would pop up and score against her. It really was sod's law. So yeah, I've never seen a City defence troubled by pace as much as they were. And Anthony Gordon just ran the legs off them at centre forward. There can't be a blade of grass he didn't cover, either going forward or coming back. And then you after that, the almost comical picture of Walker tricking Dan Burn with the ball and run away with it, and Dan Burn rumbling after him all the way back to the goalkeeper, forced the goalkeeper to make a rick of it and give the ball to Gordon. I mean, that was just sheer pressure on City. Now, that doesn't happen to them very often, and we did it, and we've got to keep doing that, otherwise our season will fall apart. I'm really hoping that we do get something of a performance like that against Everton. Neil's absolutely right. It can't be the same, because Everton aren't Manchester City. But that should tell us that we've got a real chance if we have a go at Everton. And I don't care who plays centre half for Everton, centre back for Everton. He's going to have his hands full with Anthony Gordon in the form he was on against Manchester City. And the number of times he came within an inch of making a fool of their goalkeeper, Manchester City's goalkeeper, with his tricks with his feet. I was just waiting for the ball to end in the back of the net at least once. It didn't, but by good luck and good management. So yeah, I'm very positive about it. If they can just bring that form there on Saturday, tomorrow, then we've got nothing to fear. Nothing to fear at all.
Tell us your thoughts about the cup game, George. Someone's put in the chat there about the the audition that those had there. It was, those auditioned on a Wednesday for inclusion in the first 11 failed miserably, awful performances. I mean, I had a different feel about the game, to be honest. It felt like a friendly, but when I came away from it, I actually felt that it was a professional performance by Newcastle because, they passed the ball well. And when I got back and saw the stats, it said that Newcastle had 80% possession. I thought, well, that's, look, that doesn't matter whether it's home or away. That tie was a potential banana skin for Newcastle, which in the past, we have all seen Newcastle lose games against teams like that. And for me, it was professional. And I felt, it's disappointing for those who maybe that's one of the only games they'll get to this season. But overall, I was just pleased to see Newcastle progress to the next round, knowing that we've now got Chelsea at home and, we've got a big game ahead. But what was your thoughts, George? I mean, it wasn't one for the purists.
It wasn't, but I'm like you lads. When we play somebody like Wimbledon, a second league team in a game like that, and particularly a side like them, they're nearly top of their league. And how have they got top of their league? Because they're all big lads, physical, and not going to let anything go. They're going to have it. They're going to have a kick at everything that moves. In fact, that's how we got our goal. The fullback wouldn't leave it alone and brought Miggy down. The number of times I've sat at St James's Park and either up in the stand or in the old days in the Gallagher corner, biting me nails because I'm worried about Crew Alexandra and Neil tearing her apart in a game like that. And if we'd gone gung-ho in that game, which is what some people I think were hoping we would do, that's exactly what could have happened. A lucky goal, a lucky bounce off a corner, a lucky bounce off those long throws they were putting in, and we got an equaliser and went to bloody penalties, and that's the last thing we needed. So yes, I agree with you. It was the brightest performance, but it was a thoroughly professional performance. And the people that did play to their usual standard did the job forward. I mean, Fabian Schär was brilliant again, and not counting his penalty. But he took knocks, but he still stayed there, kept coming back. I thought we're seeing a much better version of Lloyd Kelly, as where I think he should be playing, not a left back. Professional is not a bad word. It wasn't. You're right. It wasn't for the purists, but there was no way we were going to lose that match. I never felt like that.
No.
And normally when I go to a game like that, I'm biting my fingernails sometimes, just waiting for the inevitable to happen. Well, it didn't happen, and it was nice to see the crowd have already invented a song for Osuna. I think. I was really, really taken with that. I thought that was great. I mean,
he loved it as well, and I think he actually made a bigger effort. I know that's wrong, probably to say, but he made a bigger effort in the second half once that song started to echo around, and he was attacking the Gallagher end. Yeah,
he did, but I think he got a bit frustrated in the first half because he did make one or two very good runs. But the other players just didn't pick him up. He just was running into space, and the ball didn't get to him. I think in the dressing room, he not only had a G up, but I think people were getting a G up to say, well, at least put the ball where he can get it. And the other thing I liked about him is when it gets near the goal, he's not frightened to have a shot, and he's got a shot. So no, I liked him. I think there's a lot more to come from him. But other than that, professional job, I think is a good way to describe it. Steve, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think Mitch, we learned a lot. We learned a lot from that game in the sense that Eddie Howe knows what he's doing, because what I saw from a Sula in particular. Listen, the kid's a big lad, as Jack Charlton would have said. He's got something about him. But at the moment, he's raw talent, and you can see why he hasn't been chucked in at the deep end. And it's a bloody hard job ploughing the lone furrow up front for Newcastle. And Isaac's got what it takes to do that. But overall, Sula will have learned a hell of a lot, and he's had that opportunity to play in front of that crowd now, and he's learning. But you can see why he hasn't been chucked in at the deep end, Mitch.
And that number 9 shirt has hung heavy on quite a few people's shoulders in the past.
Yeah.
Even though it's not a number 9 these days, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Killed one or two people.
Absolutely. And so he needs handled with the right level of care to make sure he doesn't get added to that category. Well, he could have been something, but it was just too much for the job. And so you're right about him having something about him. I like the colour of his jib, I like his enthusiasm. He did sometimes make some great runs that people didn't pick up on. That'll only come with more people playing with him in training and getting used to his game and the kind of runs he needs and the kind of balls he needs played into him to adapt to those runs. It's a two-way street. So, yeah, you kind of felt that. I just felt that certain players, to me, seem to lack a little bit of hunger. But maybe I'm wrong. It is sometimes different when you're watching on the telly 3,500 miles away.
Yeah. No doubt about it. But we're through the next round. Chelsea in the next round. Looking forward to that.
And that's all the record books will say at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and Odie, the goalkeeper. I did laugh because Rob Byron, the stadium announcer, when the substitution was made, clearly didn't fancy pronouncing his name, so he said John Ruddy got in goal. I mean, talk about a cop out. I can see people around us going, "That's not John Ruddy," and I'm going, "No, yeah, you just couldn't pronounce the name." What a classic! Absolute classic.
Steve wasn't with us, but the lad that sits next to us on the other side, I said to him, I said, "Well, if that's John Ruddy, where the hell's all Greg's pies gone?"
Andy Ford's actually just said the same as me. Andy, I noticed that as well. Me and my dad were absolutely howling at that. Really funny. Okay, it's not a lookalike either, Chippers. No, don't send that in. I will take one more question before we look ahead to Everton. And a big thanks to Ian McKenna, by the way. He's gifted 10 NUFC Matters memberships. Not once, but twice tonight. So that's 20 people. He's made very happy tonight, which is great. We were going to do our last 5 that we were going to do for this week. But I'll keep them for the professionals on Sunday. So I'll gift 5 more on Sunday. Big thanks to everybody who takes out the memberships every month anyway. That's a great way to support the channel. We don't do the cup, the pen, etc. anymore. We don't have the website. Lots of people saying, "How's the website going to come back?" At the moment, no. John's got too much on his plate, and you'll have noticed he's not in the chat a great deal. And I've just told him to take the website down, and we'll move forward. But if you want to help support the channel, hit the join membership on the actual YouTube page. It's only $1.99 a month. That would be big help to us. We'll go towards the Malverno Fund. And those of you who are watching on Twitter tonight, and let me just get the total. There's 527 watching on YouTube, which means there are 350 of you watching on Twitter. Please go to YouTube and just search NUFC Matters. Hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week, and it is free to join. Chantel, I love this question, so we'll take this. What do you lads think of the Premier League having a vote on whether to have interviews as the game is going on with managers and players on the bench to ask their views on how the game is going, George?
Oh, fraught with disaster. You'll either get a the way I've watched it they do it on cricket when they get somebody on the field with a microphone. Some of them can do it and some of them can't. So it's a mismatch. Sometimes it's brilliant. Sometimes it's awful. Sadly, my estimation of how it'll go on football is that they'll get in to interview somebody at the wrong time. There'll be some sort of ruckus on the touchline. And look at the state that Arteta gets in sometimes. You're really going to let him have a microphone? phone when he's in the middle of one of his rants. No, thank you. I think I could do without that. I think it's another import that somebody wants to push our way. They've done it on the cricket on this 100 thing. It hasn't really been successful, and that's with people who are generally articulate. I don't think that could be the same said for quite a lot of the people who sit on the benches on a football match. So no, I wouldn't be in favour of it. It's a hostage to fortune, in my view, and it'll end up with people complaining to the regulatory body about all the bad language they're picking up on that television. So not for me, Steve. No, not for me.
Mitch, it is another Americanism. What's your thoughts on it?
Look, there's somebody who particularly loves the NFL. Things like that work well in American sports because of the nature of the sports. That they have set plays, they have timeouts, they have times where you can actually get hold of players, managers, etc. Also in American sports, they gear up for this. The players are all college educated, media trained, just about, and so they have a better idea how to handle themselves in a situation like that. Not all of our players and managers and coaches will, and so you will get expletives, you will get bad language that you don't really get very often, even in American sports. You hear in cricket, you hear them apologising halfway through a test match because something that's been picked up on a stump mic. And so imagine what it might be like in a football game. It just doesn't work. Our games don't work that way. And it's another sort of slant to an Americanization. I'm just about to be invaded here, by the way. It's Jaeger bomb time again. Mr. Penman's on his way in. Say hello, Mr. Penman.
Hello! Hello, Mr. Penman.
Hi, Mr. Mitchell. Hi, Mr. Rafe.
So,
hello,
sir. It's something I could see being an absolute disaster. It genuinely could be Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. So it'd be brilliant or it'd be bloody awful.
Excuse me, guys.
You know, it'd be one or the other. Yeah.
Steve, that's yours. Right, you have some as well.
Right. I'll have some as well. But yeah, it's. I can't see it. Can you? That's the best example that people talked about already. Can you imagine Arteta having a microphone shoved under his mouth while he's jumping up and down on the sideline like some sort of Lego-headed bloody cricket? You know, and what's going to come out of his mouth, and it's going to be half Spanish expletives and English expletives and God knows what else. Might make for good television, but it's not going to make everything look terribly good, really. No. It just doesn't work in our game. It's one of these things that, yeah, I get why they think it's a great idea because it does work so well in certain sports in the States. Nah, not for me. Not for me.
No. I don't mind trying new things if it adds to the game. That will add absolutely nothing but problems.
I would be more interested in hearing a referee's opinion at the end of a game. You know, I'd love to be able to hear what a referee has to say about why he made a decision, because I think that would, you know, it would really help, you know, moving forward. Well,
you lads know one of my bugbears about VAR is that we don't hear what the referee says. Now that's the conversation I'd like to hear, what the referee's saying to the people at Stockley Park and vice versa.
Well done.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, as I will give Mitch time to recover from his Jaeger bomb. I'll go down the avenue of Lookalike. Only a handful today. You, Stephen Kennedy, Lookalike, Frank Langella, and Christopher Lee. And what I've done here is separated, and there we go. Yeah. Very good. Even got the same costume on, give or take the red cape. So thanks for that. Life's taken its toll since leaving Buckingham Palace. Very good. I'm sure we've had that one before, but thank you for that. And this one from Gary, Wimbledon, Bugil, and Mitrovic. Not bad that he's got slightly different eyes, but it's not a bad one. That
Mitrovic with smiling, it would be better.
Yeah, That one hasn't come up on my screen. I'm not sure if it's come up on yours. Can you see them, George?
Phil Mitchell, yes.
All right, there we go. Stu Penman and his Bonnie Lass cooking breakfast. She's saying he looks like Tim Healy. Yeah, that one, Mick Hucknall. And the guy, Steve McFadden, who plays Phil Mitchell. Now, if you put a wig on, that's what he looks like. I mean, I'm sure that's still Steve McFadden on the right, but it's clearly, it's a good one anyway. It is a good one. The winner this week is this one from Dunstan Mag. One for the lookalikes. Joy Division singer Ian Curtis and Duncan McKenzie of Everton. Dunstan Mag. Tony, that is brilliant, mate. Well done. That is the true story of a lookalike. Get them in. Had an out from Rita this week, but Hasty will be back next week, so I'm sure we'll get a dog or two. If you've got a lookalike, join the Facebook group, like the Facebook page, or at Steve Braith on X, and I will pick them up there. Okay, time to look ahead to Newcastle United's game against Everton at Goodison Park tomorrow. Toon Stato is first up.
Hello everyone watching. The key stats before tomorrow's game at Goodison Park. Actually, Newcastle has not won at Goodison Park without Callum Wilson or Hatem Ben Arfa scoring for 20 years, more than 20 years, since 2002. Since then, we have won 3 times out of 20 at Goodison Park. But in the last 8 games, both at St. James's Park and Goodison, Newcastle has won 5 out of 8. Although we didn't win any of the 2 games last season when we lost 3-0 at Goodison and we only managed to draw 1-1 at St. James's Park. Ever since Sean Dyche took charge of Everton in February 2023, 45% of their goals have come from set pieces. At the same time, since April this year, Everton have 6 home wins and 2 defeats in 8 games, which makes them the team with the most home points in the Premier League, believe it or not. Newcastle is making their best start since 2011-2012 under Alan Pardew. So far we have 11 points out of 18 and we are 7th in the table. When it comes to players, Anthony Gordon is having a terrific calendar year 2024 with 13 goal involvements in Premier League, 7 goals and 6 assists. So far he's yet to score or assist against Everton, his previous club. On the Everton side, Ashley Young has 2 assists in the last 2 games for Everton, which makes him the oldest player in the Premier League at the age of 39 to register such an achievement in 2 consecutive games. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Hopefully we'll win before the international break. Away the lads.
Thank you to Andre, and it's time for Scunny Mag's section. If you're heading down to Goodison Park, here's all the information that you need.
Hi folks, Scunny Mag here with another away day guide. This one's for Everton. Anybody wanting to say goodbye to Goodison Park after 132 years of service? Potentially our last visit there, unless we meet him in the Cups. Everything you need's coming up. Okay, Goodison Park, one of the oldest grounds in the Football League, and you can definitely tell, which is why they're moving to their new stadium for the 25-26 season coming up, and hopefully it'll get rid of all these restricted view seats, but that might not quite be the case. But for now, let's have a look at all your key information. If you're driving in, the club do have their own car park. It is £15 a vehicle, and for a club that calls themselves a People's Club, feels a little bit like they're trying to fleece people with that one. Your better closest option is in Stanley Park, a little bit closer to Anfield. It'll set you back £10 for the day, and your postcode for it is Lima 40 Tango Quebec, and your what 3 words for the entrance is Blame Atoms Clown. For those coming in on train, Liverpool Lime Street has routes in from all over the country. If you do come into the city centre, there are away-friendly pubs. I've picked out 3 in a little cluster near Lime Street because that's probably where most people will end up. The first one being the Crown, on the corner just across the road from the station entrance. Postcode for it's Lima 11 Juliet Quebec, and it's at 43 Lime Street with Hurl Carbon Duck as your what 3 words. And then just further down that road at number 81, you've got a pub with the official name Divines. It's also known as the Big House, with the what 3 words of Oasis Ally Rots. And coming back around on the one-way system, you've got the Richard John Blackler, which is a Wetherspoons pub at Lima 11 Hotel Uniform, and Grand Lively Rises will get you there if you're using a what 3 words app. The one closest to the ground is going to be the Winslow Hotel. That's a mixed pub. It's a nice family atmosphere. It's a minute from the away stand, and Voter Pound Sport will get you to the corner at the front of the pub. And then the Arkles. If you haven't been, go. It's something every football fan should do in a lifetime, in my humble opinion. It's a cracking little venue, and it's great. If you're a Newcastle fan and you like the strawberry, it's that kind of thing, but for Liverpool, and what's not to like? Your postcodes for it's Lima 4, 0 Tango Juliet, and your what 3 words is indeed mirror admire. It will be busy, but anything that's good is going to be popular in it. They do have a fan zone at Goodison. It's just behind the Park End stand, which is around the corner from the away end. They do welcome visiting supporters. It is mixed. And then when you are finished with all that, the away end is in the south end of the Bullens Road stand. It's in the southeast corner of the stadium. You'll be looking for turnstiles 53 to 60, and your what 3 words of chimp, driver, behave gets you into the right area. You'll see where to go from there. I've been Paul. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you very much. Tim Cairns, what 3 words? Jordan Henderson, dinosaur. Thank you for that. And good evening from the Burj Khalifa fountain, says Neil.
I've got 3 words for Stu tonight. They've come up and they've had their Jaeger. Maltesers are gone.
Mark Blair says, I've been to Goodison once. FA Cup game in the 90s. I won a Steve Wraith buses from Heworth Metro. I think we lost 1-0 if I remember correctly. What 3 words were Steve was bladdered? Yeah, that was a great trip. That my brother went and he fell asleep. It was that good a game. Ian Rush got the winner, if I remember rightly, Mark. It was a good trip, that, mate. It was a really good trip. Good day out. I think that was the day
we've had a couple of good trips to Everton, Neil.
True.
I think that was the infamous day that we did the Mars bar trick on one of our mates called Titch. He fell asleep on the bus and his pants were hanging down. So what we did was we opened a Mars bar and we stuck it down the crack of his backside. So when he woke up and he got off the bus, he thought he'd followed through. He ran all the way home, only to realise that it was chocolate. He never came on the away bus again either, Mark, after that. Yeah, happy memories. Okay, so Newcastle.
Well, our last trip, Neil and his mates introduced the driver, me, to Red Bull. I'd never had Red Bull before. And Frecky, Neil's friend, said, have one of these, man, it'll wake you up. So I had one, I liked it. So I had another one. 2 cans of Red Bull. Christ, I was driving the car at 115 miles an hour up the motorway.
Classic. Newcastle United go to Goodison. It's a 5:30 kick-off live on Sky Sports tomorrow. The club's away ticket transfer scheme will be on operation for the first time. You can get those details if you click the link on nufc.com. Team news: Callum Wilson, Sven Botman, Jamal Lascelles, Lewis Miley and Alexander Isak are all out. Nick Pope, Fabian Schär and Kieran Trippier are all going to be in the squad. Martin Dubravka was omitted from the latest Slovakian squad. Eddie Howe gave an update today at the press conference. He hasn't been ruled out of the game tomorrow, so he should be on the bench. It's simply a bruise on his knee, so no long-term damage. Joe Linton, as somebody has already pointed out in the chat, is 1 booking away from a 1-match ban. He's already had 4 yellow cards. As I've already mentioned this week, Chermiti, Broja and Coleman and Nathan Patterson are all out. Jared Branthwaite is a doubt after a training ground injury. This unconfirmed reports also state that Vitali Mylenko isn't expected to be involved. Everton started the season with 4 Premier League defeats, but form has picked up in the last couple of games with a 1-1 draw at Leicester and a 2-1 win last week against Crystal Palace. As for the referee, well, it's Craig Pawson. He was in charge when Newcastle had an opening day home win over Southampton. He did send Fabian Schär off in that game with a red card, if you remember. He was supposed to do the Wimbledon Cup game at Plough Lane, but he didn't get the rearranged fixture. On VAR is Chris Kavanagh. And I have mentioned this a couple of times this week, but I will do it again. If you are going down to the match by train, please don't forget that the 21:06, so that's the 6 minutes past 9 train, tomorrow night, the Liverpool Lime Street to Newcastle service will terminate at York Station. An additional York to Newcastle service will depart at 7 minutes past 11. There is no connection between the 2 trains. If you're travelling between Liverpool and Newcastle, you should travel on earlier train services to complete your journey. So there you go. That is all the information that you need. So yes, George, could be the last game at Goodison, as Scotty Mag said, unless we get them in the cup. It's been a weird place for us over the last few years. Last year was an absolute disaster. We lost 3-0, horrendous game, but we did have a multitude of injuries. We won 4-1 against them the season before. Wilson got 2, Joe Linton, Murphy. Season before that, we lost 1-0. Season before that, we won 2-0 with a double from Wilson. And then the season before that was that crazy game where Lejeune, the centre-half, came on and scored 2 late goals to manage to grab a point in a 2-2 draw. But it's been a nightmare of a place to go to for Newcastle's over the years. I'll be glad to see the back of it. I've got to be perfectly honest. It's always been the poor relation to Anfield for me, and I'm not a fan of the Scouse Mackems, as people tend to call them. But what's your feelings about this one, George? Because I would imagine it's going to be pretty much an unchanged team.
I would hope it would be if that 11's is in the mood again, then we've got nothing to fear. Just got to get their brains in the right place. In terms of going, it's always sad when things change. But I've got to say, Goodison Park, the trips to Everton we've had, I've always enjoyed, but not Goodison Park, because that corner of the stand that our friend points to, that the supporters will go to, don't sit behind one of the steel girders, as you'll see now. It's awful. It really is awful. It's old-fashioned and just totally unfit for spectators, in my view. So that bit of it, I'll not be sorry to see go. But we should. If we're in the mood, we should have no trouble with this game. It's as simple as that for me. And the fact that Wilson and Isak aren't there, if Anthony Gordon turns in the sort of game he had against Manchester City, he'll run the legs off whoever's playing centre back for them. So they've got that to face, and I don't have any fears on that score. The game they had a couple of weeks ago when they lost 3-2 to Bournemouth in the last 5 minutes, brought to my mind the Lejeune game, because those 2 Lejeune goals were both in extra time. He headed one in and then took the ball to the centre spot and come back and did it again.
I think that was 2 firsts for them. I think they were the first Premier League team to draw from a 2-up position after 80-something minutes.
Yeah.
And the first Premier League team to lose from the same position after 80-something minutes.
Yeah. So, that did remind me about that. But it also tells me that they switch off at the wrong times by the look of it, which is surprising for a Sean Dyche team, because that's the one thing he wouldn't tolerate, I would imagine. So, but I'm expecting a good performance if they can just. Even 90% of what they did against Manchester City should be enough to tie Everton up. And I'm looking forward to it. I really think we do have a chance.
Okay, Mitch, what's your views on this game? From our perspective, it's a chance to go into the international break, hopefully with another 3 points in the bag, and looking ahead to a tough round of fixtures coming up after this.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. I think that's the way we'll have to look at it. If we put the effort in against as we did against Man City, we should have enough to cope with them as a team and a squad. A good mate of mine out here, who's an Everton fan, sent me some stats today, and he's already concerned that if Branthwaite doesn't play and Keane does, the stats he sent me is that when Keane doesn't start, they have a win ratio of 48%. They keep 41% clean sheets, and they got 70 points from 126. When Keane does start, they've got a win ratio of 9%. They've got a clean sheet ratio of 9%, and have 12 points from 63, and that's quite damning. So, and he's already conceded that if Branthwaite isn't in the team, they're done. And if he's doing that, then I think there's a lot of Everton fans must be doing that. And if that's the case, that's how fragile they are. And if the fan base is that fragile mentally, then we'll have Gordon coming back playing up front. He could make hay while the sun shines and really rub it in. So I think we have to try and look at the positives. He said to me, and I'll quote, "Gordon will have a field day, the diving little gobshite." So there you go. That's a genuine view from a genuine blue and a genuine football lad. Actually, this is a lad who used to supports Everton, used to work for Liverpool, and has some amazing football stories from him and his dad looking after Liverpool players for God knows something like 20 years. And he's genuinely not looking forward to playing with them more. And so if he feels like that, I'm quite sure a good chunk of their fan base feels like that. And they're a little bit like us when we're on high door. They're a fan base that's a tinderbox. It's ready to go off. And if we can get on top early and really push an advantage home, that's a fan base that can turn. And that doesn't help Everton at all. And so I think we've got to go there with a very optimistic and positive view.
Yeah, I would agree. For me, I genuinely think that, Newcastle's got a great opportunity tomorrow. And those stats that you provided, I think are probably the reason I feel as confident. Newcastle have got to turn up like they did last week, though. They've got to play the game, not the atmosphere. Anthony Gordon especially really has to make sure that he, is focused on the job in hand. We need to get the ball to him, but we need to, we just need to maintain the same kind of levels.
I was really buoyed by his interview before and after the Man City game.
Yeah.
That's somebody who genuinely, I think, maybe at the start of the season was not mentally in the right place, and now most certainly is. And I think this game's come at a very interesting time for Gordon. And I hope that he delivers something special for Newcastle United tomorrow.
Yeah, and the interviews did something else for me, Neil, and that's put egg on the face of all those journalists that were trying to sell him to Liverpool and do this and do that and do that. And then Anthony Gordon just said, never was in our minds.
I still think the biggest problem for Anthony Gordon over the summer was the way he was treated by Gareth Southgate.
Absolutely.
I've had more than one person come to me with the suggestion that the way he was treated by Gareth Southgate dented his mindset so badly that people like Eddie Howe had to talk him down off the edge and leave in the England squad at one point. Now, I don't know how much truth's in that, but the way he came back to Newcastle United and everything that surrounded that circus, that would suggest that to me.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that the England experience wounded him at times. 5 minutes on the pitch, and I just genuinely think that he's coming through that period now. I think a new contract will sort the issue out with him as well. I think the talk of a new contract and the war flags.
When he spoke about that last week, he was excited. Mm-hmm. He could see it. He could feel it. He was excited. He was grateful for what War Flags did. And that was fantastic timing by War Flags, by the way. Well done, lads and lasses. That was just the fillip he needed at the right time and in the right way.
For somebody in his position to admit that he was almost in tears when he went on the pitch and seen that was brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. And it didn't stop him playing football.
Everybody was talking ahead of that game about the new Adidas logo in the seats. Nobody gave a stuff about that. When the team come out, everybody was more focused on AG10. Thank you very much. Well done, lads and lasses.
Yeah, I'm not sure they'll do that tomorrow, Phil, but I get your sentiment. Also, it would be great if Gordon had his new contract announced just before the match. Then he would get a hat trick. Yeah, it'd be nice to see him score tomorrow. It certainly would be. And you know what, as well, just before we finish up, and we've got a couple of things to get through. I just think it was great that we've got penalty takers now, George. Have you noticed? Yeah. I mean, we're winning penalty shootouts. I remember we couldn't win a penalty shootout for love nor money, George. No. But now, there's no worry when people step up. And I thought it was interesting to hear Anthony Gordon again in his interview when he was talking about the focus that he puts into a penalty. He's fully focused, and it's just great to hear. And of course, Fabian Shaw got the one during the week. the winning penalty against Wimbledon. But it's great to see us being able to score from the penalty spot.
Well, they've obviously worked out a routine for each individual, I think, and that's important. You can always tell when players walk up to the spot, walk to the ball, and they hesitate with the ball, and they're looking at the goalkeeper all the time. You have a look at Gordon, have a look at Shaw the other night. They never even looked at the goalkeeper, just focused on the spot, focused on the ball, and put it where they intended to, and that was it. So yes, you're right. It's a refreshing change to not feel again like biting your nails when somebody's going up to take a penalty, as we've had in the past. So no, that's great. Good for us. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't worry, do you, Neil, when people step up for a penalty now in Newcastle?
It's about mindset, Steve.
Yeah.
It's not about practice. It's not about how many times you take a penalty in training. It's about mindset. It's like golf shots. Some people just need to play the shot. Don't think about it. Not too many swing thoughts. If you just too many swing thoughts, suddenly it goes south. Some people just need to hit the ball. Other people need to have that process. The process which allows them to execute. And it's the same with penalty takers. Why did Germany dominate penalty shootouts for years? It's not about how many times they practice. It's about mindset. I'm going to win this. I'm going to score this. And I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And it's the same if you come to American football, come to kickers who regularly now hitting field goals from 50 yards plus is now not an unusual thing. It's now a regular thing. But if you talk to somebody like Brandon Aubrey at Dallas Cowboys, who regularly hits huge field goals, he actually says, no, I don't practice beyond 50 yards. Once I'm at 50 yards, I can see where the ball hits the net by the post, and I know how much harder I've got to swing to hit 55, 60 yards. It's in my head. It's in my mindset. I can do that. I know I can do that, so I don't need to practice it. And in fact, if I practice it, I feel like I'm wasting my time. And that's a fascinating input from somebody who does set-piece plays as constantly as he's living. And it's the same with penalties, I think. It's about your mindset. It's about, if you look at how Isaac takes a penalty, he visualizes. If you look at him when he's standing over a ball to take a penalty, in his head, he's decided where he's going to place it. He's going to decide how he's going to strike it. And he does a little fist pump. He does a little celebration before he then runs up and takes the penalty. That's visualization. He's visualizing where he hits it. But that's not for everybody. So, you look at what Shaw did on Tuesday night. He was casual as you like.
Yeah.
But that's for him. And I think that's the mindset. They all think they're going to score, so bring it on.
Okay, finishing off with a couple of things. Today I'm out where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. And thanks to Mal for this one. Marseille away 2004. He met Bobby Moncur, the last man, of course, to lift a bit of silverware for Newcastle United in 1969, the Fairs Cup. If you've got a photograph of you meeting somebody famous from Newcastle United, past or present, then get it to me at the Facebook group or the Facebook page, join or like. Or at Steve Wraith on X, and it gives us the opportunity to play this wonderful track. And a bit of humour from Elliot. I had a prostate examination this morning. The doctor gave me the thumbs up. Painful, Elliot. Painful. Prediction then, George, for tomorrow's game?
I'm going for the Penman, 3-1 to us.
3-1. I'm going 2-1 to Newcastle United tomorrow. No dice as Mitch is elsewhere today. So just a prediction from Mitch.
1-0 Newcastle United.
1-0 to Newcastle. Great stuff. Don't forget, I am back in the morning, 10:30 with Three's a Crowd, the North East Football Podcast. Join me, Ted the Mackham and Rye from Borough. What mood will Ted be in? Leeds United against Sunderland tonight. 8 o'clock kickoff.
We may be nipping next door into Goodfellas to join the Leeds lads this evening.
Oh, I thought you might be. And don't forget as well, Big Up is where we're going to be doing the match day live tomorrow. I'll stick it out on all the socials so people can find it. But it's something new. There'll be a few familiar faces on there, and we'll be doing that tomorrow night. Please, if you've got a little bit of cash this weekend, surplus to requirements. Pay weekend was last weekend, so get yourself onto the website, newcastlelegends.com. Buy the book, The Entertainers, 92-97, Keegan's Legacy. It is the must-have book this Christmas. Buy one for yourself, buy one for somebody else in the family, and help Dementia Matters. George, Mitch, thanks very much, lads. Neil, I'll see you 5 o'clock Sunday with a bad head, no doubt. Take care.
Thanks everybody for watching. It's really appreciated. And thanks to all the cabbies I get to keep telling us how good we are.
Take care.
Cheers.